John Locke, a pivotal figure in the history of political philosophy, published his two treatises of government in 1689. This work laid the intellectual foundation for modern liberalism, emphasizing natural rights, the social contract, and the principles of democracy. Locke's writings had a profound influence on the development of constitutional law, human rights, and the theory of government. His ideas, particularly those outlined in the two treatises, have shaped political systems worldwide, especially in the context of the American Revolution and the drafting of the United States Constitution. Context and purpose of the treatises. Locke wrote the two treatises of government in response to the political turmoil and debates of his time. England was embroiled in conflict during the late 17th century, with tensions between monarchists, parliament, and the emerging ideas of constitutional monarchy. Locke's work was a direct response to the absolute monarchism advocated by figures such as Sir Robert Filmer in his book Patriarcha, which Locke critiques in the first treatise. Locke's main aim was to challenge the divine right of kings and to articulate a theory of government that was based on natural law and the consent of the governed. First treatise. Refutation of Patriarcha. The first treatise is primarily a critique of Sir Robert Filmer's Patriarcha, in which Filmer argues for the divine right of kings. According to Filmer, kings derive their authority from God, and their power is absolute and unquestionable. This idea is based on a biblical interpretation that traces royal authority back to Adam, the first ruler of mankind, as a patriarchal figure. Filmer's argument for the divine right of kings rested on the premise that the power to rule is bestowed by God, and that all political authority stems from this divine mandate. Locke, however, vehemently disagreed with this notion. In the first treatise, he systematically dismantles Filmer's argument by pointing out its contradictions and logical fallacies. Locke argues that there is no biblical or logical basis for the claim that kings have a divine right to rule. He emphasizes that Filmer's interpretation of the Bible is flawed, and that the concept of a divinely ordained monarch is inconsistent with natural law. Locke asserts that the idea of absolute monarchy is neither supported by reason nor by scripture. Rather than focusing on the idea of divine right, Locke proposes an alternative theory of political authority. His central argument is that political power is not inherited or divinely ordained, but is instead derived from the consent of the governed. This foundational idea becomes the cornerstone of his political philosophy and will be further developed in the second treatise. Second treatise, a theory of government based on natural rights. The second treatise is where Locke presents his theory of government. It is in this treatise that he develops the concept of the social contract, which has become one of the most influential ideas in political philosophy. The treatise is divided into several chapters, each addressing different aspects of government, the state of nature, the social contract, and the rights of individuals. 1. The state of nature and natural law. Locke begins by discussing the state of nature, a concept that had already been explored by other philosophers such as Thomas Hobbes. However, Locke's view of the state of nature differs significantly from Hobbes's. For Hobbes, the state of nature is a chaotic and violent place where individuals are in constant conflict, leading to a war of all against all. In contrast, Locke views the state of nature more optimistically. While it is not without its challenges, the state of nature is characterized by the existence of natural law, moral principles that govern human behavior and are accessible to reason. According to Locke, individuals in the state of nature are free and equal, possessing certain natural rights, including the right to life, liberty, and property. Number 2, the social contract. Locke argues that individuals in the state of nature would eventually come together to form a government in order to protect their natural rights more effectively. This transition from the state of nature to a civil society is known as the social contract. Unlike Hobbes, who believed individuals enter into a social contract to escape the violence of the state of nature, Locke posits that the social contract is made to preserve and protect the natural rights of individuals. The social contract, according to Locke, involves individuals consenting to establish a government that will act as a neutral arbitrator to resolve conflicts and protect their rights. However, Locke is careful to emphasize that the government's power is not absolute. It is limited by the consent of the governed and must act within the bounds of natural law. If a government fails to protect the rights of its citizens or becomes tyrannical, Locke argues that the people have the right to rebel and replace the government.